Believe it or not, being a private investigator is a relatively safe job. Sure, you're spying on people, peeking through the drapes as it were, but most of your research is done from a distance. You don't need much face-to-face contact these days, since most people live their lives online. Most of the work can be done from a laptop or even a cell phone. But if you crave excitement, if you like the thrill of chasing the bad guy and being the big hero and all, you won't get any of that adrenaline rush from clacking keys on a keyboard. Of course, I couldn't tell the doctor that, who was trying to explain to me just how badly my nose was broken. "Look, if you're not going to tell me the truth," the guy said in a bored tone. "I swear, I was just trying to catch the ball with my hands, Doc. My face just beat me to it," I said as he taped up my nose. I won't go into the gory details, but let's just say there was quite a bit of cotton in my nasal cavity. "Yes, and your football has a size 12 pair of Nikes on," he stated. "How can you tell?" I asked, my interest piqued. "Well, there's a tread pattern in the bruise that matches treadwear, Mr. Colton," he said. "You must see a lot of bruises then," I said. The doctor nodded. "If I get you a photograph of a bruise, you think you can tell me what caused it?" The doc wrote on a tablet while he responded with disinterest in his voice. "I might be able to do that. It won't be an official opinion, mind you. Just more or less an educated guess." I immediately began texting Sheri. "I need a photo of your eye," I told her. 3 dots appeared as she typed her response.
"Why?"
Huh. That took an awful long time just to type that. Oh well, I'm talking with an expert right now. We could use it to catch our baddie. There was a pause for half a second before a photo came through my text messages. It was Sheri, all right, big bruise and all. In the picture, she stood in front of a store of some kind. There was people out on the sidewalk behind her. Best to be out in the open, I guess. When I passed the phone to the doc, he zoomed in on it for half a second, then said, "Doorknob." "How can you tell?" I asked. Keep in mind that this is basically an educated guess without seeing her in person, but you see how round the bruise there, and with the perfect circle of a bruise underneath? I nodded. That matches that pattern. Of course, it could be the pattern, but a couple other things as well. Since I didn't examine her directly, I can't say with any certainty. No one hits anyone else with a doorknob, not at least in my experience. So why give yourself a black eye? That part was more confusing than anything else. Her story has fallen apart the more I thought about it. The bruise in the life insurance forms were more than enough for her to go to the police and start an investigation. That is, unless you gave yourself the bruise. Unless you faked the life insurance forms. Both of which would take a cop less than a day to figure out. It took me the span of 2 hours and a broken nose to figure it out for myself. I filled out the final bit of paperwork but didn't listen to much what the doctor told me. My mind kept going over the facts of the case. Back in my apartment, I did a couple other quick searches. One would never think to check to see if the person he was hired by was actually his client, especially after they got a driver's license from him. That was a very good fake ID. The clacking of the keyboard rang out loud in the sparsely furnished one-bedroom apartment. There was something nagging me. The bruise she gave herself, Mr. Crane referring to his wife in the past tense. How did you know her instead of how do you know her? That's when I found it finally. It pays to do your homework properly. If I had finished my research instead of just running off to be the big hero, I would have saw it. Sheri was dead. She died 2 months ago. Everything and nothing at all made sense. Mr. Crane must have been the mark, right? She pretends to be his dead wife. He gets wrapped up in a world of legal trouble, and she can then... What? No cop at all would ever touch this thing with a 10-foot pole. In fact, she'd be the one in trouble, not him. Impersonating someone dead is still technically identity theft, a crime. But she didn't go to the cops. She went to me. I bet she didn't even call the cops on this. She needed a down-on-his-luck, idealistic young Columbo wannabe who was just reckless enough to start kicking in doors without doing much looking and desperate enough not to ask too many questions. In other words, she needed me. However, her selecting Mr. Crane wasn't an accident. There must have been something. The keyboards clacked away in the apartment as I searched more. I started with the missile system, this supposed system with the glitch that would save all these lies. Instead of finding an XJ anything, though, I came upon the AA Quadro Force system, a revolutionary defense system that does, well, quite a lot, actually. About the only damn thing it didn't do was make coffee. Nothing in the internet made any mention of an XJ anything. Nothing archived, no news reports, no nothing. The AA Quadro Force was the real deal. The XJ was a myth. I was the mark. I had been the mark the entire time. She didn't want evidence of abuse or an XJ anything. She wanted Mr. Crane busy with me. But why? I had two courses of action I could take. Go see Mr. Crane again, ask more questions, and hopefully dodge the punch this time. Or I could go find Sheri and see just how she's spending her time when she's not getting hit in the face with doorknobs or finding life insurance policies laying around the house.